Hi guys, it's Cornish Kayak Angler here from kayakfishing.blog. Today's video is going to be the first of a couple of videos where I look at anchoring a fishing kayak, and today's video is going to focus solely on the Anchor Trolley System. Now, really common question, especially by people who have just got into kayak fishing, is how do I anchor my fishing kayak? What do I need to anchor my fishing kayak? On the face of it, it's quite simple. Well, you need an anchor, you need some anchor line. You can throw your anchor down to the bottom, tie the line off to the kayak, you're anchored your fishing kayak, hey presto. Unfortunately, it's not quite that simple. Well, it's not that simple if you want to anchor your kayak safely, and safety is paramount when you're anchoring a fishing kayak. Anchoring can be potentially one of the most dangerous things you can do on your kayak. Now, the worst case scenario is you've anchored your fishing kayak, something's gone wrong during the anchoring procedure, the process, or something's gone wrong with your anchoring system. You've ended up in the water, the kayak's turned over for whatever reason, you've ended up in the water, your kayak's still anchored, you've drifted away, or the wind's pushed you away from your kayak, you're unable to get back to your kayak. Not good. Fine if you've got someone on the water with you, someone who can come and help you and get you back to your kayak. If you're on your own, you're in big trouble and you're going to have to call someone who can come and rescue you. Now that needs to be avoided at all costs. So one of the things which gets mentioned all the time when anyone asks, how do I anchor my fish kayak, what do I need? The Anchor Trolley System, and the Anchor Trolley System is paramount to safely anchoring your fishing kayak. Now, on the name of it, the Anchor Trolley System, you might not be able to work out what it is or why you might need it. But don't worry, this video is going to run through, have a close look at it, why you need it, what the Anchor Trolley System is, what you need to make an Anchor Trolley System, and we'll also have a look at one on my own fishing kayak, how one is set up on a kayak. So before we go looking at what exactly is the Anchor Trolley System, let's have a look at why we need the Anchor Trolley System. Okay, so let's take a look at why we need an Anchor Trolley System for safe kayak anchoring. Now, I'm going to use a few props here. We've got a spectacular wooden model of a kayak, which took all of about 5 minutes to make. Also going to be using, I've got fishing weight here, length of cord, a little carabiner, just to replicate an anchoring system. Now, nothing's to scale, it's all very basic, but it's just going to show you the principle and the theory behind why we use anchor trolley systems. Now, if you're sat on your kayak, you're in the middle, you've got your anchor, you drop your anchor in, it goes to the bottom, you've got your anchor line, and you're just going to tie it off to the closest point you can to your seat. It's going to be about halfway there on this kayak. Now, you've got the tide, the wind, the swell, or might be some current, whatever's strongest, pushing across here in this diagram, in this example. Now what's going to happen with this kayak is, with it being clipped off, your anchor line clipped off at the midpoint of the kayak, it's going to cause your kayak to swing side on into the conditions. Now, the effect that has is it makes the kayak very unsteady at anchor, makes it wobble about a lot, and if it's choppy, if there's choppy waves coming along, your kayak starts rocking a lot like this. Now, a kayak is not very stable along its sort of beam. What effectively you've done is made the effective length of the kayak that can ride the conditions this length rather than this length. And if you've ever sat on a kayak and rocked side to side, you'll know that a kayak can be quite unsteady if you're violently rocking side to side on a kayak. Now, if you do the same along the length of the kayak, like so, you'll notice it's a lot more stable. So, let's say we anchor from the stern of the kayak, the back of the kayak. This will have the effect of causing the kayak to swing into the conditions along its length. Now, this is much more stable. It's very hard for it to be knocked off this axis. So the waves, the tide, it might be pushing past, but it's not going to cause your kayak to move too much, and certainly won't put you at risk of tipping the kayak over, because the kayak can easily ride the conditions along its length like it's designed to do. So with it anchored off the stern, very safe. And the same applies if we was to say anchor off the bow. The kayak would swing into the conditions, and again it's nice and stable and able to ride the conditions along its length, much more stable. Of great, we've got a solution to where to anchor off your fishing kayak. It's got to either be off the stern or the bow, the very points of the kayak. Now, problem is you're sat in the middle. Unless you've got 6 foot or 8 foot arms, you're not going to be able to reach to the back and front of your kayak to tie your anchor line off. This is where the anchor trolley system comes into play. Now, the anchor trolley system allows you to drop your anchor from your seat to the bottom and then position your point of anchoring either to the stern or to the bow. And it works on a pulley system which runs alongside the kayak so that you can easily position your point of anchoring. Now, most commonly it's off the stern, because off the stern your kayak sits facing down tide. You can cast your rods down tide and you can fish and see your rod tips pointing down tide, rather than if you were off the bow of your kayak you'd be casting up tide, and it could be a little trickier, but some people like to do it. But that is the principle behind why we use an anchor trolley system, is to allow you to position your point of anchoring off the very stern or the very bow of the kayak, where it's safest to anchor your kayak from, so that you're not anchoring at midship, which will put your kayak beam on into the conditions and risk you turning the kayak over because it becomes very unstable. So next we'll look at exactly what the anchor trolley system is and the components that make up an anchor trolley system. Okay, so now we know why we need an anchor trolley kit to safely anchor a fishing kayak, but what exactly is an anchor trolley kit and what do we need to make up the anchor trolley kit? Well, I briefly mentioned the anchor trolley kit is a pulley system which runs down the side of the kayak. It allows you to shuttle your point of anchoring from the seat where you're able to put in your anchor into the water to then either the very back of the kayak, the stern, or the very front of the kayak up at the bow, so that your kayak will then sit in line with the prevailing conditions so that you can sit at anchor safely. Now, the anchor trolley system, it's made up of a number of parts. You can either buy them as ready-made kits off the shelf. Lots of companies do them. Select Designs do one. Yak Attack do one. If you're in the UK, Cornwall Canoes make a very popular anchor trolley kit. But yeah, there's lots of different variations on the anchor trolley kit, but they all revolve around the same sort of principle of being a pulley system that runs down the side of the kayak. And I'll show you sort of the basics of a kit here. It all starts with being able to attach pulleys at either end of your kayak, and pretty much every kit will come with pad eyes. These are little eyelets which you can attach to either end of the kayak. Usually you'd want to place these within the first 6 inches or inwards from the bow or stern, certainly within the first sort of say 10 inches, but the closer you can get these to the bow or the stern, the closer the point of anchoring is to the very ends of the kayak, and the better it will perform. So yeah, try and get these within the first 6 inches of the kayak. You're going to need to attach these to the kayak. There are 2-hole fixing. Now most kits will come with fixings. Ideally you want to be able to use nuts, bolts and washers. This is a 316 stainless M5 bolt with a nylock nut and a small washer. You can use bigger penny size washers if you want, but small washers are fine. These are the strongest fixing. Now, great if you can access the area behind where you're going to fix this, because you're going to need to do up that nut. Now, on the front of many fishing kayaks there's a front hatch, so usually you can get in the front and bolt on a pad eye. At the back of the kayak can become a little trickier. Many fishing kayaks don't have a rear hatch, so you're unable to get to the back to do up a nut. You're going to have to use a blind fixing. Now, I ran through the different types of fixings you can use in a previous video, so maybe check that out if you want an in-depth look at each one. But the next sort of strongest option would be a tri-fold rivet. Now, this is a special type of rivet where the shaft is split in 3. As it's compressed, it expands behind the plastic. It grips the plastic really well. It's really strong. Great because you don't have to get in behind to do the fixing up. It's all from the outside of the kayak. So some kits will come with tri-fold rivets. Many kits also come with rubber well nuts. So these are a type of expansion nut. The nut goes into the kayak, you do it up from the outside, it expands behind the plastic on the inside and holds the fixing tight to the kayak. So that's another option which comes with some anchor trolley kits. So yep, you've got your pad eyes, you've fixed them to the very ends of the kayak or within the sort of start and end of the kayak. You then need to attach your pulleys to the pad eyes. Now most kits will come with bungee to do this. This is just 5mm shot cord bungee, and you can simply pass your pulley through the bungee and tie that onto the pad eye. Now the bungee serves a couple of purposes. It acts as a sort of a shock absorber for when you're at anchor. It gives you a bit of stretch, a bit of play, so that the kayak's not jolting really hard against the anchor line. It also serves to keep the anchor trolley taut to the kayak. It's nice and tight against the side of the kayak, so it's not loose and slopping about. And you want it nice and tight so that it'll perform a little better. It's easier to use. It's easier for the cord to run between the pulleys when it's just slightly taut. So that's what the bungee's for. Now some kits will tell you to put bungee at either end. Some kits it'll be just at the front and they'll give you a clip to attach to the back. There's loads of variations on it. As long as your pulleys are attached and there's a bit of bungee involved somewhere, it'll be fine. So then that leaves you to run the cord between the pulleys. And a cord, you need enough to be roughly twice the length of the kayak. So it's got to go all the way to the front, all the way to the back. For a full length anchor trolley system. Some people fit half length anchor trolley systems where it only runs to the seat, to the back of the kayak, but I'm going to talk here about a full length anchor trolley system because that's what most people use. So say if I've got a Revolution 16 kayak, it's 16 foot long, about 5 meters long. I'm going to need about 10 meters or 32 foot of cord. So just make sure your kit comes with enough cord to run between the pulleys to full length for your kayak. And this is just some 5mm sort of multi-filament polypropylene cord. Any sort of 4mm or 5mm cord is fine. Braid on braid, sprint line. You get some high performance non-stretch braid. It's fine, but multi-filament polypropylene 5mm, perfect. Works really well, and it's inexpensive. And that will come with many kits as standard. So that's going to run between your pulleys. You're going to have two ends of the cord to join. Stainless carabiner. So this is a small, I think it's a 60mm long 316 stainless carabiner. It's not going to rust in salt water, and it allows you to open up the gate and clip your anchor line into the carabiner. So you don't have to go passing your anchor clip through and then clipping your anchor on like you will have to. Some kits come with a ring, and that's what you'll have to do if you've got a ring in the kit. You've got to pass the anchor line through before you clip your anchor line on and then drop to the bottom. To be honest, if the kit comes with one of these, get rid of it. You don't need it. It's much more effective to have a carabiner because it allows you to clip your anchor line in and out really quickly. Much more effective. So yeah, you would join the cord with the carabiner, and that's most of the kit done then. That allows you to shuttle your anchor line once you've clipped it in or passed it through there to the front or back of the kayak between the pulleys that are attached via the pad eyes. And last thing to consider is making sure the anchor trolley doesn't move when it's set at the very front or back of your kayak. And what you'll need to hold it in position is a cleat. Now, there's several different designs of cleats. There's loads of designs of cleats. This is a zigzag cleat. Now, this is probably the most popular for kayak anchoring because the one cleat can be used for anchoring both your anchor trolley line and the anchoring line itself. That will get explained more in the next video when I run through the different ways of setting up anchoring setups and systems. That's what a zigzag cleat allows you to do, and that's probably the best cleat for the job. You can get these ones. Some kits will come with these. I know the Hobie one does. This is a fine line clam cleat, and the anchor line locks in here, but you can only use the one cleat for the anchor trolley. You'd have to have a different cleat for your anchor line, so just consider that. It's usually best to opt for a zigzag cleat, and if the kit doesn't come with one, you can buy these separately. As you can with all the components, you can tailor make your own anchor trolley kit, but this will need to be fitted somewhere beside the seat, near the seat, but not in a position where you're going to catch your hands on it as you're paddling. So I'll show you that on my kayak in a minute, but it's usually positioned just back from the seating area, or some people like to put it forward to the seating area, but it needs to be within reach, but out of the way your paddling arc, or the way you're going to be paddling, so that you don't go grazing or catching your hands on it. Trust me, it hurts. You don't want to do that. Again, fit this, it needs to be with a nice strong fixing, because the point of anchoring is going to be off this cleat. All the pressure is going to be off this cleat. Ideally, nuts, bolts, washers. If you've got a centre hatch, in most cases you can reach in and do it with bolts, nuts and washers. You know, you can use some nice big sort of penny washers behind this to give it a nice strong point against the plastic. If you can't reach behind there to do nuts and bolts up, trifold rivets, they work really well, so you can pop those through. Most rivet gun noses will just squeeze through here. Sometimes you have to force them in, sometimes you have to build up the gap with some little washers to allow the nozzle to sit against the washers and then compress the rivet. It makes sense when you're doing it, but sometimes you can't quite push the nose of the rivet gun into that gap. But yeah, you'd fit the zigzag cleat, and then that allows you to lock off your anchor line. I'll show you that on my kayak in a minute. As I said, these kits can be brought ready-made off the shelf, so you don't have to go worrying about what you need, and they'll come with full instructions. Or if you want, you can tailor make your own, custom make your own anchor trolley kit, and that is very much what I've done on my fishing kayaks. Over the course of time, I've had several fishing kayaks, and I've tinkered with my anchor trolley setup in a few different ways to make it a more effective and efficient system. And I've got the same system now on both my Hobie Revolution 16 and my Hobie Outback, and we will have a look at that next. Okay, so let's have a look at the anchor trolley setup on my Hobie Outback. This is a 2019 edition, the camo model, but the same principle would apply for any fishing kayak. So let's have a look at how I've got this one set up. As I mentioned, my anchor trolley is sort of custom made. I've changed a few things from what I showed you in the last sort of section of a sort of standard anchor trolley system, just to improve the system, make it a little more effective, a little more versatile. We'll start at the back of the kayak. As you can see at the back of the Hobie Outback, there's no rear hatch, so I wasn't able to use nuts, washers, bolts to attach the rear pad eye. So here I've got a Hobie chrome pad eye. It's not one of the sort of injection molded nylon ones I showed you in the last section, but this is a chrome one, only to be in matching with the other sort of pad eyes fitted as standard on the Hobies. As being chrome as well, it's not going to corrode, or it's going to be nice and strong as well. But yeah, this is fitted with trifold rivets, drop sealant as well to make them nice and waterproof fittings. And I've got a pulley. Now this is a Harkin ball bearing pulley. So yeah, there's a few ball bearings inside here. It makes the pulley run very smooth. Stainless as well. It's attached to the rear pad eye with a small stainless carabiner. Now, mentioned before about there being bungee to attach a pulley to the pad eye with. Now I don't use this at the back of the kayak, only to allow the point of anchoring when the anchor trolley is positioned at the back here. If I pull this back, to sit as close to the stern as possible, so my anchor line runs through my carabiner and it's nice and close to the stern, so it's going to anchor me pretty well in line with the conditions. But yeah, then we run back to the main system here, the main part of the anchor trolley, the part that shuttles. Got the cord. Now this is a 4mm braid on braid cord. It's a really low stretch braid. It's really good. It doesn't lose its sort of it won't go stretching over time as it's wearing and getting wet. It holds its shape really well. Now here I've got the carabiner, which I said you can use to clip your anchor line in and out of and run your anchor line through. I've also got a couple of stainless rings that I've used attached to the ends of the anchor trolley cord. I'll explain what they're for in a minute. They actually make part of a tow line, but I'll run through that in a second. I've also used a couple of nylon parrel beads or buffer beads just to buffer up against the pulleys at either end. They're just held in place with a small knot. So that makes the part that shuttles from bow to stern. And we come here to the zigzag cleat, and this again fitted with trifold rivets. With the Hobie Outback, got a centre hatch there, but it's a fair way from where I wanted the cleat fitted, which was just back of the seat, so it's out of my way. And I wasn't able to reach, so trifold rivets were the best option for fitting a cleat, and they're super strong for this job. Absolutely rock solid that cleat is, and that will hold this kayak at anchor no problem. Again, plenty of sealant used on this fixing to make it nice and waterproof. The zigzag cleat allows me to shuttle that to the stern where I'm anchoring, and I can then lock off through the teeth, and it's called a zigzag cleat, so it goes in that sort of Z shape there. That now holds that pulley in position. It can't move from that position. It can only move a little bit backwards because there's bungee, which I'll show you in a second, at the front of the kayak. But again, that allows a bit of buffering against the anchor line, so the kayak isn't constantly jolting against the anchor line and the anchor. That's there, the zigzag cleat. And you can also use this cleat for locking off the anchor line, and I'll show you that in detail in my next video where I look at the different anchor setups. Then running up to the bow, the anchor line runs along the side of the kayak, and here we have the anchor trolley set up at the bow on this kayak. Again, I've got the chrome pad eye here, this time fitted with the bolts, washer and nut, because I've had access through the front hatch here. And I've got a length of bungee. This is about, I'd say, 8 inches or 10 inches of bungee here. It's actually held through the pad eye using a big parrel bead or buffer bead. It's sort of a loop of bungee, to which the pulley is then clipped onto the bungee. Again, using a small carabiner. Again, it's a Harkins pulley here, roller bearing pulley. Now, the theory behind that is that I can unclip from this bungee pulls away. I can also unclip the pulley at the back of the kayak, and it allows me to completely remove the anchor trolley from the kayak, leaving only the pulleys. If I want to change anything on it, it makes it dead simple. But that's what that's for. But yeah, it's a really efficient system, works really well, allows me to sit on the seat, place my anchor in the water, shuttle the anchor trolley to the stern where it is positioned there now, lock off the anchor trolley line like so, and allows me to sit at anchor safely facing down tide in this example where it's the anchor trolley at the stern. So I mentioned a minute ago these stainless rings. I'm going to show you next what they do. Okay, so I mentioned a minute ago the stainless rings either side of the carabiner on my anchor trolley system. Now these are 30mm stainless rings, 316 stainless, tied to the end of the anchor trolley cord with a carabiner joining them. Now what this allows me to do is to unclip the carabiner from the ring. Now if I was to unclip the carabiner and leave the carabiner on the rear ring, the stern ring, and let go of this end will fly all the way to the bow. This will pull out, this will stop against the bow pulley, and this clip would allow me to then make a tow line to say clip onto another kayaker who might be in trouble, or might clip onto a small craft or something that might need a tow. That's what that allows me to do by unclipping with the carabiner on the stern side ring. So really handy. I've used it quite a few times to tow friends back to shore. I've had a few people I've been out with snap paddles or lose a paddle whilst we've been out there. This system comes in really handy. Just unclip, allow that to fly all the way to the bow pulley. This clips onto the other kayak, and hey presto, you can tow your friend back to shore or tow them to wherever needs to be towed. Now what you can also do is, instead of leaving the carabiner on the stern side ring, you can flip it round and unclip, leave it on the bow side ring, and then let go of the stern side, let that fly all the way to the back of the kayak. That's gone out the way. This flies off the front of the kayak. This then allows you to be clipped onto, say, a boat to have a tow, or clip onto another kayak so they can tow you. But it's quite a simple system. For the sake of a couple of stainless rings, it allows you to make a quick, easy tow system that's always on the kayak with you. Okay, so that covers the Anchor Trolley System. A system which allows you to position your anchor line at the very back or front of your kayak, all from the comfort of your seating position. It's an essential piece of safely anchoring a fishing kayak. Now, these kits can be brought off the shelf, ready to go. Universal kits can be attached to any fishing kayak. So if you're thinking of anchoring your kayak, be sure to get yourself a kit and get it fitted to your kayak. Of course, you can make up your own system from all the components, like I've done with my own. Great for anchoring, great for safely anchoring your fishing kayak, but can also be used in conjunction with a drift chute or a drogue. So this is an accessory which will slow your drift in windy conditions. But yeah, that anchor trolley can be used for that as well. In my next video, I'm going to have a look at how an anchor trolley is used in conjunction with an anchoring system to properly anchor your kayak. So there's a few different systems you can use. There's simple, basic systems. There's also slightly more complex but quick release systems for safe anchoring as well. I'm going to run through those in detail in my next video, so be sure to check that out. And for plenty more info on kayak anchoring, kayak fishing, check out my website, kayakfishing.blog. And for plenty more kayak fishing videos, hit subscribe. Thanks for watching.